Hello and welcome back to my channel. I love to have you back here, and if you're new, I'm Stephanie and I do videos on the topic of language learning. Usually I give advice on how to best go about it, but there's also this series that I'm doing on the Spanish language, which is a series of mini lessons of how to learn Spanish. And if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in the other series, which are to follow eventually on my channel to learn other languages that I speak as well, follow and subscribe. In today's video, I will be talking about the difference between two main Spanish verbs, ser and estar. And those two verbs both mean to be, but are used in different cases, and for many learners of Spanish, they're quite a pain. So that's why I want to go over that. And I have spoken before, especially if you're a returning viewer, you know about this, that I don't really think that formal grammatical instruction is the best, right? I'm not saying that you absolutely need to memorize all of the use cases that I'm saying, that I'll be mentioning in this video. I'm not saying that at all. Usually exposure is the best way to learn how to use ser and estar. You just get a lot of input and you notice the patterns, and then it's going to come out eventually in a normal way, or when you come across certain phrases, you're going to pay attention, you're going to notice that within certain phrases, ser and estar are used, it depends on the phrase, and that's what's going to help a lot. However, in order to facilitate this type of noticing, it could be useful to have a video like this in which you see the different uses of ser and estar, and then when you come across them in a sentence, you understand why that is, why there's a certain use, because you've already gone over it once, and it's kind of easier to notice, and it could be helpful in that way. Not necessarily that you need to memorize all of the use cases I'm saying in that video, but just that it could be good to help you notice when you see it in context, and it could be good to help you use it correctly. There's also those of us that like grammar quite a lot. I am one of those people, although I do have a video on how grammar is not essential to language learning. It's going to pop up on the screen, and yes, I do believe that, but at the same time, there's some people like me that just their personality drives them to know why certain things are said a certain way. So if you're one of those people, or if you just need some help with noticing, whatever the case might be, then this video is for you. To dive right in, the main difference between ser and estar usually can be summed up as that ser is used mostly for when you're describing something as the way it is, as a matter of fact, and then estar would be not so much about these inherent qualities, but more about a condition or a state. This is very general, and it is a good basic guidance to follow, but if you want to dive in deeper, let's start with the verb ser and when it is used. So ser, just like estar, it means to be, but it is used in different cases than estar is used. So ser, for example, is used in asking, as we mentioned, it's kind of like inherent qualities or how things are, etc. So one of those uses is, for example, when you're asking the time, you would ask ¿qué hora es? And the answer, as you can see in the question itself, there's es, which is a conjugated form of the verb ser. And then when you go for the answer, you're going to again conjugate the verb ser. You're going to be like, es la una, o son las dos, o son las tres, las cuatro, etc. And then also, whenever you're asking for something like the day or the time, ¿qué día es? Es el lunes. Or when you're asking, for example, ¿qué fecha es? Es el 25 de noviembre, etc. In addition to time, ser is also a verb that can be used about space, but in particular not where you are right now, but your place of origin. So you would ask somebody, ¿de dónde eres? Soy de Colombia, de Mexico, etc. would be the appropriate answer, and ser is something that you use in that case because it is after all, a verb that requires a little bit, it carries a little bit more of a permanence, of an inherent quality within it. So it is appropriate to ask where somebody is from. And in that same line, you would also use it for some inherent qualities like nationality. You would say, es ella española? Or soy alemán, anything that indicates what your nationality is. And also for other descriptive things about who you are, such as what job you do. You can say, soy periodista, for example. That is also, when you're describing your occupation, you also use the verb ser. And something also important to highlight besides the verb is that, just a bonus tip, you don't use an article. It is opposed to English, where you would use I am a journalist, that's what you would say. But in Spanish you just say soy periodista and no article is needed. Ser is also used when we're talking about possession. Again, something more inherent rather than a current state. So what does that look like as an example? ¿De quién es este ordenador? You're asking de quién es, not está, because in this case what we're looking for is to see who is actually the person that owns this. And so the act of possession is not about a condition, it's just like, this is the owner and that's unlikely to change. So along the same lines of going with essential qualities, ser is also a verb that is especially useful when you're talking about the material that something is made of. For example, esta camisa es de lino. It is made out of linen, so that is something that is not a condition, it is an inherent characteristic of the shirt. So that is why we use the verb ser in this case. And also it is used along the same lines of describing relationships. And that is also something that isn't a condition, but that is something that kind of links you and somebody else together. So for example, you would say, ella es mi abuela, because that is a relationship that you have and it is inherent. You would also be using ser when you're talking about where an event is taking place, such as la fiesta es en el restaurante, for example. You're saying that it is taking place there, and that is something that is also used with the verb ser. And ser is also used with certain expressions. For example, es importante leer. That is a situation in which you would use the verb ser because you're talking about something being important. Well, that is not a state, that is an inherent characteristic. One more time. So when do you use estar? Again, estar is a verb that is translated as to be one more time, but there's the difference between the usage. So estar can be used to say where you're located, right? You've heard probably quite a few times the phrase ¿Dónde estás? Because it is used to indicate where you are at this current moment of time. So you can indicate where you are using the verb estar. You can say estoy en el cine, en el restaurante, en Roma, in Madrid, whatever it is that you want to say. Also, in addition to where you are located currently, estar is in general used to ask about physical location, as in where something is located. And it is used, for example, when you're talking about geography, you can ask ¿Dónde está España? Está en Europa. So to contrast from before, really, when it comes to physical location, most of the time it is estar that's used, and ser is just only used when we're talking about where something is taking place. And when you're trying to talk about certain events that are happening in X type of place, that's when ser is used. But in most cases, it will be estar. So unless you're saying something's taking place there, you would use estar. Or unless you're saying I am from a certain country, it is going to be estar. So the classic use of estar is to say how you're feeling. So you can say estoy bien. The question is ¿Cómo estás? And so when we're expressing certain feelings or how are you, etc., when you're responding to that question, it is important to use estar because that is the way that you're feeling and that is a certain state or condition. And I really love the word state or condition when we're talking about estar, because sometimes you hear people say permanent versus non-permanent, and I think that is erroneous because, as you saw, when we were giving the example about Spain, it's like está en Europa, because that is what you use to give geographical location. So that is not something that's not permanent. Another example would be something like está muerto, so he's dead. That is a state, a condition, etc. It is quite permanent, and so yeah, I think it's much better to think about it in terms of like states and conditions rather than permanent or non-permanent, because sometimes ser and estar, yeah, sometimes like it can be about permanent, non-permanent, but not always. So it is very important to think about characteristic versus condition. Estar is, of course, also used to form some tenses. And when you're talking about like ongoing actions and you want to describe that, for example, estoy leyendo un libro. And estar is just this verb that helps form this type of tense in which we're describing about continuous actions. It is also used, just like I said, we're giving this example of like es importante. Well, there's also certain expressions that use the verb estar. For example, estar de pie, or you can say estoy de acuerdo, no estoy de acuerdo. Certain expressions like that, which are making use of the verb estar and are also quite a little bit idiomatic, just like the example that we gave with certain expressions that use the verb ser. So now that you know the basic uses of ser and estar, I think it's great to go over the uses that are contrasting, that we didn't exactly cover up until now. So a lot of times there's going to be the same word that's going to change meaning depending on whether you're using ser or estar with it. And that again refers to condition versus essential characteristic. And so an example of that could be él es aburrido or él está aburrido. When you're saying es aburrido, that means that that person is boring. That is how you would describe that person in general, that just strikes you somebody boring. When you say está aburrido, that means bored. So you see, the way is like, it's very different. Just like you change like this little verb and the whole meaning of the phrase changes. Or you can say la manzana es verde, la manzana está verde. So what do you think that means? Well, if it is ser es verde, that would be an essential characteristic. So that apple is green, as in that's the color of that apple. And when you're saying está verde, again, is green, you could certainly translate it that way, but this time it's not referring to the color, it is referring to a condition. So what is the condition of the apple being green? Well, that means it's unripe. That's what that condition is referring to. It might be any color, as in you know, what you see on the color scale. It might be any color, but if you're saying that the apple is green as in está verde, that means that it's not ripe yet. And that can happen with so many words, they just change in meaning. Because if, for example, you say es orgulloso, it means he or she is in general a conceited person. If you're saying está orgulloso, it means that that person is proud of something or somebody or something that they achieved, but it is this condition of being proud. And if being proud is your state, then you would use the verb ser, and then it takes on a whole different meaning. So for example, ella está morena, or ella es morena. So está, that means it's a condition. Well, what might be that condition? That she's tan, for example, or that she's looking darker. And then if you're saying that ella es morena, that can mean that that woman is dark-skinned or brunette or any of those things that describe like a permanent appearance. That's what I was saying before. Yeah, sometimes it can be about permanent and non-permanent, but not always. So it's always best to think about it as characteristic and condition. Another example would be ser listo, which is to be smart, or for example, estoy listo, which means, or estoy lista, right? I am ready. Or again, think about an inherent characteristic of somebody. You can say él es rico, he is rich. But if you but you know that the word rico, in addition to meaning rich, it also means tasty. So what if you want to say that something is tasty? You cannot say la sopa es rica. That'll make sense, like the soup is rich, because you're talking about a condition of the soup. And so how would you express the condition of the soup? You would say la sopa está rica. So there's a lot of those adjectives that can take on different meanings depending what verb they're used with. And in general, the meaning can be quite different for some. Like we were talking about with rico, like with ser, rico with estar. But it can also be, like for many of them, there's actually this pattern. Whenever it's used with ser, it's an ing adjective in English. So like ser cansado, which means that the person is just tiring, versus estar cansado, which you can say ella está cansada. That means that she is tired right now. And so the same thing that I was giving the example with boring and bored, ser aburrido, estar aburrido. Most of the times it's that type of distinction between being an inherent characteristic, which usually in English is expressed with the gerund, with this ending in ing, or versus being this kind of, again, an ed adjective, being how you're feeling right now, bored or tired or annoyed, any of those things. So most of the time that's the difference between ser and estar, and I would say that there's not that many cases in which it's like completely changes the meaning of the word. So when you're speaking Spanish, be very careful whether you want to talk about a certain condition or whether you want to talk about something characteristic, because in that case you can use one word and just a different verb to contrast. So that's a quick overview of ser and estar, so that you can watch it and again like notice later on when you're using input more easily what it is about and how it is used. It can be very useful, especially I think for people that like grammar like myself. Lessons like that are really helpful and really interesting. They help answer that question of why do people say estar rico versus ser rico, etc. So I hope that this video helped answer that question, and I hope that it helps you notice the uses of the two verbs when you see them in action. Let me know if you have any other questions, and if you like this type of video, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you want to see more of that, and if you want to know when I upload the next video. I'm always open to helping, so please let me know if you need any help with the use of ser and estar, or really any other topic within the Spanish language or in general how to learn languages, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye for now.